Hey everybody, welcome to Paperclipping. I'm your host, Noelle Hyman. I have heard of a number of different rules for how you're supposed to mix patterns together. And the truth is, none of them are actually rules, they're just optional methods for how you can do it well. There is one underlying general concept that might be a lot easier to learn rather than somebody else's different rules. So today we're going to talk about what that overall concept is and see how it works with some patterns and some layouts in today's episode of Paperclipping. The key concept for mixing patterns is contrast, and contrast is also one of the most important principles of design. So the common rule, or quote unquote rule, that's not really a rule, that we often hear in scrapbooking is to mix a geometric with a floral with a text. And the reason for that is there's enormous amounts of contrast, obvious contrast, between a geometric, a floral, and a text. So that's the easiest way to achieve contrast, and that's why it's the rule that we hear most often in scrapbooking. But does that mean that you can't mix lots of florals? Well, the principle is contrast, and there's other ways to get contrast, not just in mixing pattern types. So another way to get contrast is with color. This line, this paper right here, this floral, is from Dear Lizzie, 5th and Frolic, and in this other paper that's also Dear Lizzie, 5th and Frolic, you can see that she made another pattern. It's the exact same pattern, just in a different color. And it still works together. And in fact, if we had a third one in this color, that same floral pattern in this color, I think it would look really cool to have the three of them and maybe a white background. So you can see by adding contrast in a different way, you can use the same pattern. Another way to get contrast is with scale, and also another way would be with density. And so continuing with the idea of keeping florals together, but this time we're going to keep it in the same color scheme, so mainly pink. But because we've got scale and density in contrast with each other, this still looks great. So scale has to do with size in relationship to size of something else. So this flower is large, this is medium, and these are small. The scale of these flowers are different. So even though the colors are basically the same, these patterns look really good together. So this is a Dear Lizzie pattern, and this is from My Mind's Eye Lost and Found, and that allows me to mix them up. Here's a different My Mind's Eye pattern from a totally different line. It looks great. Still the same color scheme with these pinks here, but this is very dense and very tiny. Here's another one. This is also tiny, but it's got a looser density than this one. And also we've got contrast in the colors. The main item on this, or the positive, here is that pink, and then on this one, the negative is the pink. So let's put together a page with those florals. I've got these pieces of ephemera here. This has to do with my name, so this layout will be a story about my name, kind of a strange thing about it. And I got this one picture. So on one side of the page, I really want these in a pocket. So I'm going to take one of these floral pieces like this and just put this as the background in the page protector, and then just let these sit in the page protector. So the page protector will be like a pocket. All right, so that's the one page. And then I'm going to take this background and another one of these florals, and we'll start assembling a page for this photo here. I'm going to add this piece under here, let's say about there. And then I'm going to link these two, or anchor them down together with this piece that I cut out of a bottom of a different piece. And now I've added a few more pieces in just because I want more patterns, more visual interest. So I'll start laying them out. Now I want everything to kind of come together where I'll be putting my photo. So I think I'm just going to have them layered pretty tight, these small ones on top of each other, and maybe have them kind of at different angles a little bit here, so they look like they were stacked up and then just got a little bit messed up in the stack so that you can see them all. Something like that. And then this photo will come down here, so it becomes the focal point with everything getting tighter and tighter this way. So my layout is just about complete, and you can see the different layering of flowers and how they go together just great. I did add a few details over on this side, some little wood veneer birds and some little chipboard flowers and bows. And then for my journaling, I've got this piece that's not quite done yet, and it's going to be a little 6x6 page that goes in the center of the two of them, and you can do that with a 3-ring binder. And so I haven't quite got this put together yet, but it's going to look something like this. And you can see once again how the layering of the flowers looks really good. And then this will flip over this way, and I've got this piece of cutout article that my mom had taken some notes on. I wanted to go back to this layout and give you a few more tips. If you are deathly afraid of pattern, one thing that might help you out is patterns like this read more like a solid. So this is a tone on tone. It's got a very thin, narrow stripe here. But because it's tone on tone and the pattern on it is very subtle to the eye, it's more like a solid, so you can match it with almost any other pattern and it will look just fine. And so that makes it very simple. Now, for those who are more advanced, you can take certain patterns that are different from each other and have them read to the eye as if they're the same. So I've got these two pieces that are of this pendant, and they're kind of swooping in a diagonal, and they read as if they're the same pattern as this diagonal stripe here. They're not the same, but the eye, when it's just swooping across the page, kind of sees them as if they're the same. So that way you can get more variation, but still get the balance of a visual triangle. So in terms of these bright colors and the kind of diagonal line, I've got a visual triangle here, but there's more variation, so that adds interest to the page. And then one other thing to keep in mind is if you do have patterns, two different patterns that are very similar, and you want them to put them together, but there's not much contrast, you can just spread them out across the page, and then they'll lay just nicely that way. So while I'm here, I'll just show you a few more details about this page. I had this piece of ephemera that I wanted to keep, and so I made a pocket out of one sheet of pattern paper. I just cut it down and folded it over and then decorated it as if it's a page, and it's 8.5 inches wide. And so I took a page protector that's 8.5 inches wide, and I just cut it down so that this pocket can fit inside this page protector. And then I've decorated the back to go along with it too. Hopefully knowing this one simple concept will make it a lot easier for you to mix and match some of your older patterns with your newer ones and get a lot more out of your stash. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time, have fun paper clipping.